I want you to picture a scene, just for a moment. It's the 1st century AD. You're standing on a dock. It's hot. It's humid. Maybe in Musiri or Puhar on the southeastern coast of India.
Right, the heart of the Tamil country.
And the air is just thick. You can smell the salt from the sea, a bit of drying fish, but also something else, something sharp and expensive.
Black pepper.
Black pepper. And you look out and you see these massive ships. These aren't your local fishing skiffs. They are heavy, ocean-going vessels.
And they've come a very, very long way, all the way from the Roman Empire.
It's a globalized world, but 2,000 years ago, it's loud, it's vibrant, and, as you said, incredibly wealthy.
Exactly. And these ships, they're not coming empty. They're unloading chests of gold coins.
Literal Roman currency. I mean, coins with the faces of emperors like Augustus and Nero stamped on them.
And amphorae of sweet Italian wine. And in return, they're packing their holds with spices, ivory, pearls, the luxury goods of the ancient world.
And watching all of this, writing about the merchants, the kings, the soldiers, the lovers, are the poets. This is the world of the Sangam Age.
It is, without a doubt, the foundational period for so much of South Indian culture. It's where Tamil civilization really defines its classical identity. And for us, it's just a treasure trove of history.
And that right there is our mission for today's deep dive. We are going to unpack Chapter 8 of the Tamil Nadu Board Class SKI history book.
Yeah.
But we are not just, reading from a textbook. We're trying to reconstruct a lost world.
And we're doing it with a very specific focus in mind. This is for you, the learner, the UPSC aspirant, because the Sangam Age, it's not just some obscure corner of history. It's a really high-yield area if you know what to look for.
Absolutely. And to really set the stage, I want to bring up the why. Why are we dedicating all this time to ancient Tamil history? Well, because the UPSC has explicitly told us to. There was a question back in 2013 General Studies paper I that really frames our entire conversation.
All right, I have it here. It said, though not very useful from the point of view of a connected political history of South India, the Sangam literature portrays the social and economic conditions of its time with remarkable vividness. And then it just says, comment.
Remarkable vividness.
Yeah.
That's the phrase. That's our key word for today. The question is basically admitting, look, the political timeline is a bit messy. It's a jigsaw puzzle with pieces missing.
You can't always say which king ruled from exactly which year.
Exactly. But the social life, the economy, that, it says, is crystal clear.
And that's our goal today. We are going to prove that statement true. We're going to dive past the confusing dates and find that vivid reality of the people, the trade, and the land itself.
Before we fire up the time machine, though, just a quick bit of housekeeping. This entire deep dive is powered by the content from the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel. So if you're getting value from this, please, it takes 1 second. Just pause and hit subscribe on the channel.
It really does help us keep this mission going. And we have a humble request. If you're in a position to, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon. It's genuinely what allows us to keep creating this kind of in-depth content for you.
And a huge shout out to all of our current supporters.
Yeah.
You folks are honestly the wind in our sails. Thank you so much. Also, please engage with us. Like the video, drop a comment. Tell us what you find most fascinating.
And for the notes, because we know you'll want them, the free notes with practice PYQs are available on our public Telegram channel. The link is right there.
And for those of you who want the complete package, all the videos in this series at once, plus the detailed premium notes with extra PYQs and model mains answers all organized perfectly, just send us a DM on the public Telegram channel to join the private library. It really is the best way to streamline your preparation.
Okay, I think that's it.
All right, plugs delivered. Let's get into the evidence. So this whole era is called the Sangam Age. But Sangam isn't a king or a place, it's an institution, right?
Exactly. Sangam literally means an assembly or an academy. It refers to this legendary, almost mythic gathering of Tamil poets. And these gatherings were said to have flourished under the royal patronage of the Pandya kings of Madurai.
And you said legendary. That's intentional because the tradition speaks of not one, but 3 Sangams, the Machangam.
Yes, and this is where history and myth start to blend together. It's a fascinating story. The tradition talks about 3 successive academies spanning thousands and thousands of years.
Okay, so let's break that down. The first Sangam, what's the story there?
The first Sangam was supposedly held at a place called then Madurai, or Southern Madurai. The legends say it was attended by gods and legendary sages like Agastya himself.
So we're talking about a divine assembly, almost.
Pretty much. And the timeline they attribute to it is just impossibly long, something like 4,400 years. But here's the crucial part for us as history students. Not a single literary work from this first Sangam has survived. It's all lost.
And isn't there a legend that the city itself, then Madurai, was submerged by the sea, a kind of Tamil Atlantis?
That's right. The concept of Kumari Kandam, it's a really powerful part of Tamil cultural memory, this idea of a lost continent to the south that was swallowed by the ocean. In the literary tradition, this cataclysm is what explains the loss of the first Sangam.
So historically, it's the mythic starting point. We can't verify it, but it sets the stage. What about the second Sangam?
This one was held at a place called Puram. And again, the legend says this city too was eventually lost to the sea. Most of the literature from this period also vanished, but one monumental text survived.
And that would be the Tolkappiyam.
The Tolkappiyam. This is a name you absolutely have to know. It's one of the cornerstones of our entire understanding of this period.
Now, it's usually described as a work of Tamil grammar, which, let's be honest, sounds incredibly dry to a modern listener, like a rule book for verbs.
I know, it does. But calling Tolkappiyam just a grammar book is like calling an encyclopedia a dictionary. Yes, it deals with grammar, phonetics, syntax, but it does so much more. It codifies what you could call the grammar of life.
The grammar of life. I like that. What does that mean?
It lays out the conventions for poetry, for human behavior, for love, for war, for ethics. It explains how society should function, how people interact with each other, and crucially, with their landscape. It's our single most important source for the sociology of the era.
So it structures both sentences and society. It tells you not just how to speak, but how to live. That's brilliant.
Precisely. And that brings us to the third Sangam.
Okay.
This was held in the Madurai that we know today. It was founded by a king named Murugan, and this third Sangam is the source of almost everything we refer to today as Sangam literature. When we're analyzing the society and economy for the exam, we are overwhelmingly drawing from the texts of this period.
So let's stock our evidence locker. We have the Tolkappiyam from the second Sangam, and then this huge corpus from the third. That would be the Ettuthogai and the Pathuppattu.
The 8 anthologies and the 10 idols, yes. We're talking about thousands of poems written by hundreds of different poets over a long period of time.
And what's really interesting is how they organized all this material. It wasn't by genre, like we would, fiction, nonfiction. They had a different system.
A very different system. They divided the entire human experience into 2 categories, Aham and Puram.
The inner and the outer.
Exactly. Aham is the interior life. It's about love, romance, family, sexuality. It's private, personal, the emotions between 2 people.
Okay.
And Puram is the exterior life. It's about everything public. War, governance, a king's glory, charity, ethics, death.
It's such a simple binary, but it covers everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You're either dealing with your heart or you're dealing with the world.
You are, and this distinction is so important, especially when you think about that prelims question from 2022 that was asked about Sangam literature.
Right.
The key takeaway from that is that this literature is overwhelmingly secular. These are not primarily religious texts like, say, the Vedas, which are hymns and invocations to gods. Sangam poems are about real people, real feelings, real battles. Gods are mentioned, sure, but they're part of the scenery of life, not usually the sole focus.
That's the vividness from the mains question again. It's grounded in a tangible human reality. But the corpus doesn't end there. We also have the great epics, which came a little later, Silappathigaram and Manimegalai.
Yes, these are narrative epics, not just collections of short poems. Silappathigaram, The Tale of an Anklet by Alongo Adigal, and Manimegalai by Sidalai Satanar. They give us a continuous story, which is incredibly useful.
How so?
Well, the story of Silappathigaram literally takes the reader on a journey from the Chola kingdom to the Pandya kingdom and finally to the Chera kingdom. It ties the whole political geography of the Tamil country together in one narrative. It's a roadmap.
Okay, so we have the poets, an incredible body of literature, but let's play devil's advocate. A poet is paid by a king. He's going to write that the king is 10 feet tall and a military genius. How do we know any of this is actually true? Do we have any outside corroboration?
We do, and that is what elevates the Sangam Age from folklore into history. We have non-Tamil sources, specifically the Greek and Roman authors.
Like Megasthenes.
Megasthenes, Strabo, Pliny the Elder, Ptolemy, they all wrote about India and its trade. But the most important one is probably the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea.
Right, the Sailor's Guide.
It's essentially an anonymous merchant's handbook from the 1st century AD. It's a practical guide. It lists the ports on the Indian coast, what you can buy there, what you can sell there, and its descriptions of places like Musiri and the goods traded there match the Tamil poems almost perfectly.
So it's like finding the receipt for the transaction on both sides of the Indian Ocean.
That's a great way to put it. When a Tamil poet says, the Yavanas came with their ships bearing gold, and the Roman writer Pliny complains that India is the sink of our empire's gold, that's independent verification. You can't argue with that.
The smoking gun. What about inscriptions?
We have those too. The Ashokan edicts, specifically Rock Edicts the 2nd and 13th from the 3rd century BC, mention his southern neighbors.
Yeah, he names them.
He names them the Cholas, the Pandyas, the Keralaputras, who are the Cheras, and the Satyaputras. So we know for a fact these political entities existed and were independent kingdoms even back then.
Wow.
Then you have the Hathakumba inscription of King Karavela of Kalinga. It dates to the first half of the 2nd century BC, and it mentions a confederacy of Tamil states that was, he says, 113 years old at that time.
So this wasn't some new development. These were old, established powers.
Very old.
Okay, so this brings us to the big debate, the timeline. Putting a date on all of this is notoriously difficult, but there's a general consensus, right? How do we arrive at that?
We arrive at it through something historians call the Gajabahu synchronism. It's our anchor.
Okay, break that down for us, the Gajabahu synchronism.
Right, so in the epic Silappathigaram, there's a scene describing the consecration of a temple to Kannagi. The ceremony is being conducted by the great Chera king, Sanguttuvan.
Okay.
And the text explicitly mentions that a guest of honor at the ceremony was King Gajabahu of Sri Lanka.
So they were contemporaries. They were the same party, basically.
Exactly. Now, the great thing about Sri Lankan history is that it's very well documented in their Buddhist chronicles, the Mahavamsa and Dipavamsa. We have a pretty solid timeline for their kings.
And we know when Gajabahu ruled.
We know that King Gajabahu II ruled in the 2nd century AD. So if he was at Sanguttuvan's temple ceremony, then Sanguttuvan must also have been ruling in the 2nd century AD, and that helps us date the entire literary period.
It's a brilliant piece of historical detective work. So it gives us a rough window for the Sangam Age, from around the 3rd century BC to the 3rd century AD.
That is the generally accepted time frame, yes.
All right, let's move into the second part of our mission today. Let's go back to that 2013 mains question. It said the political history is not very connected.
Right, it's fragmented.
It's hard to draw a neat timeline of King A was followed by King B who ruled for X number of years. It's messy, but we absolutely know who the big players were. The Moovendar.
The 3 crowned kings. The Cheras, the Cholas, and the Pandyas. They were the 3 great powers, the pillars of the Tamil country. They fought each other constantly, they made alliances, they intermarried, but they were always the dominant forces.
So let's profile them. Let's start with the Cheras. If this were a strategy game, who are they? What's their territory?
The Cheras are the lords of the western coast. Geographically, think of modern-day Kerala and the western parts of Tamil Nadu. Their capital was Vanji. Their main ports, crucial for the Roman trade, were Tondi and Musiri.
And their emblem.
Their emblem was the bow and arrow.
Okay, and every dynasty has its hero, its star player. Who was that for the Cheras?
Without a doubt, it was Cheran Sanguttuvan, the Red Chera. He is the king the poets just couldn't stop praising. He's most famous for a legendary military expedition to the north.
All the way to the Himalayas. That sounds a bit like poetic exaggeration.
Oh.
A king from Kerala marching an army to the Himalayas in the 2nd century AD.
It might well be, but the symbolism is what's really important. The story goes that he marched north, defeated some Aryan kings, and brought back a stone from the Himalayas.
Why a stone?
To carve the idol of Kannagi.
Ah, Kannagi, the central character of Silappathigaram, the ideal wife.
Yes, and this is a masterstroke of statecraft. By doing this, Sanguttuvan establishes the Patini cult, the worship of Kannagi as the ideal, chaste wife. He wasn't just being religious, he was aligning his rule with the highest moral virtue of his society. It's a brilliant political move to unify his people under a new, powerful, emotional symbol.
It anchors his authority in culture and morality, not just military might. Very clever. Okay, so Cheras, West Coast, bow and arrows, and Sanguttuvan and the Patini cult. Got it. Next up, the Cholas.
The Cholas controlled the central and northern parts of the Tamil country, most importantly, the Kaveri River Delta.
The Rice Bowl.
The agricultural heartland. Immense wealth. Their early capital was Urayur, which was a famous center for cotton textiles. Later, they moved to the great port city of Puhar, also known as Kaveri Pumpatnam.
And their emblem was the tiger.
The tiger.
And their greatest king.
Karikala Chola. His name is interesting. It means the man with the charred leg.
Oh.
Yeah, it might hint at some kind of accident he had when he was young, or perhaps an assassination attempt by fire that he survived. Whatever the origin, his reign was absolutely transformative.
He was a warrior, first and foremost.
A brilliant one. His defining moment was the Battle of Veni. He was heavily outnumbered. He faced a massive confederacy of his enemies.
Who was he up against?
The Chera king, the Pandya king, and a coalition of 11 minor chieftains. The entire region basically had ganged up on him, and Karikala crushed them completely. The victory at Veni established Chola supremacy for a generation.
But he wasn't just a conqueror, he was a builder, right? And that's his real legacy.
That is his enduring legacy, the Kalanai, or the Grand Anicut. He constructed a massive stone dam across the Kaveri River.
To help with irrigation.
Exactly, to divert water into canals for irrigating the delta. And here's the amazing part.
It's still there.
It's still there, and it is still in use today. Think about that for a second. The Roman Colosseum is a ruin. Karikala's dam is still watering the fields of Tamil Nadu. This is that vivid economic history the UPSC question was talking about. Advanced hydrology, state-sponsored infrastructure, a king who understood that true power comes from agricultural prosperity.
That is incredible. Okay, finally, the third of the Movendor, the Pandyas.
The Pandyas ruled the southernmost part of the Tamil country. Their capital was Madurai, the great temple city, and their emblem was the fish, specifically a carp.
And they were the patrons of the Sangam Academies themselves.
Yes, they are intrinsically linked to the literary tradition. Madurai was the center of it all.
And their most famous king is Nadukal. But it's a bit confusing, because there were two of them, correct?
It was a common royal name, yes. So you have the Nadukal from the epic Silappathigaram. He's the tragic figure who wrongly executes Kovalan, Kanagi's husband, and then dies of shock and guilt when he realizes his grave injustice. He represents the immense burden of dharma, of righteous rule on a king.
And the other one?
The other one was the great warrior king, Talaya Langanatu Chiravenra Nadukal.
Which means he who won the battle at Talaya-Longanam.
Exactly. Like Karikala, he is famous for defeating a huge coalition of his enemies when he was just a young man. The poem Madukanji gives this glowing description of his kingdom, painting a picture of Madurai as a city that never sleeps, just bustling with commerce and trade day and night.
Now, before we move on from the political landscape, it wasn't just these three big kings, was it? There were smaller players, too. The minor chieftains.
The Kadai Yeluvalagal, the 7 great patrons. Yes, this is very important. These were minor rulers who controlled smaller, often hilly territories. Figures like Pari, Kari, Ori, and Adiyaman.
And they're famous not for their battles, but for their incredible generosity.
For their philanthropy. They were the great patrons of the poets. They were independent power centers, but their fame rests on their support for art and literature.
And there's that famous story about Adiyaman, right? With a gooseberry.
Yes, it's a beautiful story that tells you so much about the values of that age. The legend says Adiyaman was given a rare magical gooseberry, an amla fruit, that was supposed to grant long life, maybe even immortality, to whoever ate it.
And he didn't eat it himself.
He didn't. He gave it to the great poetess, Abayar. His reasoning was that his life as a chieftain was fleeting, but her life, her wisdom, and her poetry were a greater treasure for the world and should be preserved.
Wow. That says everything. The idea that literature, that art, was a higher value than even a king's life.
It shows a society that placed immense value on intellectual and cultural capital. It's really quite profound.
So we have the kings, we have the chieftains. Let's look at the machinery of the state itself. How was it all run? Was the king an absolute dictator?
It was a hereditary monarchy, for sure, but the king's power was checked by tradition, by sacred law, and by the advice of his court.
The court was called the Avai.
The Avai, the imperial court. And the administration was actually quite formally structured. The texts talk about the 5 great councils that advised the king.
What were they?
You had the Amaichar, who were the ministers, the Anthanar, the priests, the Senampathi, the military commanders, the Thuthar, who were the envoys or diplomats, and finally, the Orar.
The Orar.
The spies.
The spies, which implies a pretty sophisticated intelligence network, doesn't it? It's very reminiscent of Kautilya's Arthashastra up in the north. A king needed to have eyes and ears everywhere to maintain control.
And how did they fund all of this? How did they raise revenue?
Land revenue was the chief source of income, as in most ancient societies. But, and this is key for the Sangam Age, customs duties were also a huge source of wealth.
From all that foreign trade.
From all that woman trade. The poem Pathuppattu gives us this incredibly vivid description of customs officials working at the port of Puhar. It says they would inspect the goods and then stamp them with the king's tiger seal before allowing them into the city.
That's a modern customs office. That's bureaucracy.
It is. It's not just a king taking whatever he wants. It's a systematic process of taxation and regulation. And of course, booty captured in war was another major source of income. And speaking of war, they had this very unique tradition, didn't they? Something about a tree.
The Kudamiram, or the tutelary tree. Each king, each dynasty, had a sacred tree that was a symbol of their sovereignty.
So what was the significance of that in battle?
It was hugely significant. When you defeated an enemy king, it wasn't enough to just take his land. For total victory, you had to capture and cut down his sacred tree.
And then what?
And often, they would take the wood from that fallen tree and use it to make the war drums for their own army.
That is just brutal psychological warfare. You are literally beating the drum of your victory, made from the very soul of your enemy's kingdom.
Total domination. It's a powerful symbol.
Okay, let's pivot now to what is arguably the most unique and fascinating aspect of Sangam society, the social structure. Because the Tolkappiyam doesn't just give us a list of castes, it gives us this incredible concept of the 5 landscapes, or the Tinais.
This is the heart of it. This is where we see that vividness in full force. It's an ecological theory of society. The Tolkappiyam divides the entire Tamil land into 5 distinct ecozones. And the fundamental principle is that the land dictates the life.
What do you mean by that?
Your occupation, the god you worship, the music you listen to, even the type of love you experience in poetry, it all depends on which of the 5 landscapes you inhabit. It's a worldview completely intertwined with nature.
Let's walk through them. I want our listeners to really visualize this. Let's start at the highest elevation, the hills, Karinji.
Karinji is the hilly, mountainous tract. Think of the Western Ghats. It's a land of forests, waterfalls, and steep cliffs. The people there were primarily hunters and gatherers. They collected honey from high in the cliffs and hunted game.
And their deity.
Their deity was Murugan, the handsome young god of war who carries a spear and is said to reside on the hilltops.
In poetry, this landscape had a specific theme.
Yes. In Aham poetry, Karinji is the setting for the union of lovers. Secret meetings at midnight in the forest. It's romantic, exciting, a little bit dangerous.
Okay, so we come down from the mountains into the next zone, the pastures and forests.
Mulai. Mulai is the pastoral land. Gentle forests and grazing grounds. The people here were cattle rearers, shepherds. Their life revolved around their herds. Their chief deity was Mayan, who is later identified with Vishnu or Krishna, the divine cowherd.
And the poetic theme for Mulai.
It's the theme of patient waiting. The wife waiting faithfully at home for her husband to return from his journey, whether he's away at war or on business. It's about domestic virtue and patience.
Then we move into the flatlands, the agricultural plains, Murugan.
Murugan is the riverine tract, the fertile delta. This is where agriculture thrived. The people were farmers, the Velar. This was the most densely populated and civilized zone where the great kings had their capital.
Their god would be.
Indiran, the god of rain and thunderstorms, absolutely crucial for a successful harvest.
And the emotion.
The emotion is lovers' quarrels. Infidelity. Because the idea is that in this settled, prosperous, urban landscape, life is a bit too easy, and the husband has the time and opportunity to stray, leading to conflict with the wife. It's about the complexities of married life.
That's very specific. Okay, from the plains we head to the sea. Nadal.
Nadal is the coastal region. The people here were the fisherfolk, the Parathavar. They were also involved in salt manufacturing, which was a very valuable commodity. Their god was Varunan, the god of the sea and the oceans.
And the feeling here is one of pining.
Pining and anxiety. The wife of the fisherman staring out at the vast, unpredictable ocean, waiting for her husband's boat to return safely. It's a feeling of melancholy and longing born from separation.
And that leaves one more. The 5th one is different, isn't it,
Yeah.
Palai?
Palai is the arid dry land, the desert. It's unique because it's not seen as a permanent landscape, but rather what happens to Karinji or Mulai during a drought when the sun scorches the earth.
And the occupation there.
Robbery and brigandage. The people of the Palai were highwaymen, cattle raiders. They preyed on travelers. Their goddess was the fearsome Kauravai, the goddess of war and victory.
And its poetic theme is the hardship of separation.
Yes, dangerous journeys. A lover eloping with his beloved, and they have to cross this dangerous, sun-baked wasteland together.
This is an incredibly sophisticated system. It connects geography, economics, religion, and even psychology.
It's absolutely brilliant. And notice, this is not the rigid fourfold Varna system that was dominant in the north. Yes, the Tolkappiyam does mention the 4 groups. Eras are the kings, Anthan are the priests, Vanig are the merchants, and Vel are the farmers. But the primary identity described in the poems is more horizontal. It's tied to your land, your Tinai. It wasn't as vertically stratified as the later caste system became.
Speaking of social structures, let's talk about the position of women. You hear about female poets, which sounds very progressive for the ancient world. But was it really a golden age for women?
It's a real mixed bag, a study in contrasts, really. On the one hand, yes, there were highly educated and respected women. We have powerful poems by figures like Nakalair. Avire was so respected she could advise and even scold powerful kings.
And love marriage was a concept.
Love marriage was a central theme of Aham poetry, suggesting that women had some agency in choosing their partners, and courage in women was highly praised. There's this famous Puram poem about a mother who hears her son has died in battle. She runs to the battlefield not just in grief, but in terror that he might have been struck in the back, which would mean he died a coward's death.
Yeah.
And when she finds his body and sees the fatal wound is on his chest, she rejoices more than she did on the day he was born.
That's intense, a very Spartan mother kind of vibe. But there's a but here, isn't there?
There is a big but. The life of widows was depicted as absolutely miserable. They had to shave their heads, wear coarse clothes, sleep on the floor, and eat bland food. They were essentially social outcasts.
And the practice of sati existed.
It is mentioned, yes, especially among the higher strata of society. And the ultimate virtue for any woman above all else was karpu chastity. This ideal was incredibly powerful and policed their lives strictly. So while they might have had intellectual freedom, their social and personal freedom was heavily constrained.
Let's turn to religion for a moment. You mentioned Murugan as the primary god of the hills.
Murugan, or Seon, the Red One, is the preeminent Tamil deity. He is the indigenous god of war and youth. But we also see a process of syncretism happening. The Aryan gods of the north are being absorbed into the local pantheon. Mayon is identified with Vishnu, Vendin with Indra. The cultures are clearly mixing.
But what was the most distinct, uniquely Tamil religious practice of the age?
That would have to be the erection of hero stones, the Nadukal.
Explain that. What is a hero stone?
Well, this was a fundamentally martial society. Valor was the highest ideal for a man. So if a warrior died bravely in battle or even defending his village from a cattle raid, his community would erect a stone in his memory.
And it was more than just a memorial.
Much more. They would often inscribe his name and his heroic deed on the stone. And then they would worship that stone. They believed the spirit of the fallen hero resided within it, protecting the village. It's a very direct form of ancestor worship.
Martial ancestor worship.
Exactly. You're not praying to some distant, abstract sky god. You're praying to the spirit of Kumar from down the road who died saving your family's cows. It's very personal, very tangible.
Let's move to the final piece of that 2013 mains puzzle, the economy. We started with the Roman ships. Was this really a golden age in economic terms?
In economic terms, absolutely. It was a boom time. The evidence is overwhelming.
So it starts with agriculture.
It does. The foundation was a strong agricultural base. Rice was the staple, especially in the fertile Chola country. But they also grew ragi, sugarcane, and high-value spices like pepper, ginger, and turmeric. The Chera country in the west was particularly famous for its jackfruit and its pepper.
And then there was industry.
Industry was very advanced for the time. Weaving was a massive industry. Uriah and Madurai were famous textile hubs. The poems have these incredible descriptions of the cotton clothes produced there.
What do they say?
They describe the fabric as being as thin as a cloud of steam, or like the sleeve of a snake.
So we're talking about an incredibly fine muslin, something that would have been a super high-value luxury export.
Precisely. And that brings us to the trade. The Roman connection is the engine of this whole economy. The sheer number of Roman gold coins that have been unearthed in Tamil Nadu is just staggering. Coins from the reigns of Augustus, Tiberius, Nero, they're found in hoards all over the region.
And we mentioned Pliny the Elder earlier. He was actually complaining about this trade, wasn't he?
He's furious about it. He read that India was the sink of gold, that it was draining the Roman treasury. He calculated that Rome was losing something like 50 million sesterces every year to India.
He was basically complaining about a massive trade deficit.
A huge trade deficit. He complained that Roman ladies had an insatiable appetite for Indian pearls and spices, and that it was bankrupting the empire.
So what were the main exports and imports?
The main exports from the Tamil country were cotton fabrics, spices, especially pepper, which they called black gold ivory, pearls, and precious stones. In return, the Romans brought gold, horses, and sweet wine. The port of Puhar was described as an emporium. a truly cosmopolitan city where you could hear many different languages spoken in the marketplace.
So to circle back to that mains answer, the economic vividness comes from, 1, the detailed descriptions of agriculture and the different Tinais, 2, the high-quality textile industry, and 3, the undeniable archaeological proof of massive Roman trade.
Precisely. That is the vividness. We have the poems, we have the Roman writers, and we have the coins in the ground. It's an undeniable picture of a prosperous mercantile society.
But as they say, all good things must come to an end.
Right.
How did this vibrant era decline?
Towards the end of the 3rd century AD, the Sangam Age begins to fade. The traditional powers, the Cheras, Cholas, and Pandyas, are displaced and go into a period of obscurity. They are overrun by a group known as the Kalabhras.
The so-called Dark Age of Tamil history.
That's what earlier historians called it, mainly because we have very few literary sources from that period compared to the Sangam Age. The Kalabhras ruled the Tamil country for about 2.5 centuries.
Was it really a dark age?
Modern scholarship has revised that view a bit. It seems that Jainism and Buddhism actually flourished under the Kalabhras, and some important literature was produced. But from the perspective of the old Hindu kingdoms, it was a period of foreign occupation and decline until the Pallavas in the north and the Pandyas in the south rose up and overthrew them in the 6th century.
So the curtain falls around 300 AD. Let's bring it all together then. Our mission was to test that 2013 UPSC statement. Political history is disconnected, but social and economic history is vivid. What's the final verdict?
The verdict is statement validated, absolutely. The political history is fragmented. We have great kings like Karikala and Sanguttuvan, but the chronology is blurry. But the social history is incredibly vivid. We have the entire social ecological system of the Tinais, the complex status of women, the unique hero stone culture.
And the economic history is arguably the most vivid of all. The bustling ports, the Roman gold, the descriptions of industry and agriculture, the picture of how people lived is sharp, even if the calendar of who ruled when is a bit fuzzy.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought to mull over. A little connection to what comes next in South Indian history.
Let's go back to those hero stones, the Nadukal.
Okay.
We have this deeply ingrained cultural practice of erecting a stone to honor a dead hero. The belief is that the spirit of that hero resides in that stone. It becomes an object of worship. Now, fast forward a few centuries. Think of the great stone temples of the Pallavas and the Cholas. The massive, intricate structures built from granite. And at the heart of each temple is a stone idol in which the spirit of the deity is believed to reside.
So you're suggesting a connection?
I'm asking, is it possible that the seed of the great South Indian temple tradition lies in these simple, powerful hero stones? Did the cultural impulse to immortalize a hero's spirit in a stone evolve and scale up into the impulse to immortalize a god's spirit in the grand stone temples of Kanchipuram and Thanjavur?
From a rough-hewn stone for a fallen soldier to the towering Vimana of the Brihadisvarat temple. That's a powerful idea of cultural continuity. It suggests that the temple culture wasn't just imported from the north, it grew organically from the soil of this Sangam hero worship.
It connects the dots beautifully, doesn't it?
It really does. And that is a wrap for our deep dive into the Sangam Age. A quick reminder that this audio was generated based on the Tamil Nadu Board Class 8 History Book, Chapter 8.
And if this helped you connect those dots and visualize the past, please do us a favor and subscribe to Simplified UPSC by PPP on YouTube. And if you can, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon. It really does keep this content coming.
Don't forget the free resources on the public Telegram channel. All the notes and PYQs are there for you. And for the premium learners, the private library with all the organized content is waiting for you. Just send a DM on Telegram. Keep learning and keep asking those big questions.
See you in the next one.